Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ramot. In today's video we'll be showing this beautiful off shoulder top together from the body to the sleeve and finishing. So if you haven't watched the part 1 of drafting and cutting the fabric, make sure you check it out first. So let's get started.
So I'll be using the facing to turn in the bodice, so I don't have any stitches allowance to it because the sewing allowance is already included on the pattern except the place that we cut out. And I also extend the length by 1 inches for the hem allowance. So this is also what the back also look like. I also extend the length by 1 inches for the hem allowance. So for the sleeve I cut 2 for it, which is on fold, and the band I cut 4 because the band is going to be double because we are going to turn in the band. So we'll be starting with the front first, so I'm going to pull the rest aside and then use the chalk to trace out the dart allowance. So after that I'm going to remove the pattern paper and then use the pen to pin it from the starting point like you see me doing to the other side, and then use chalk to mark it out. So after I'm done with that, I will start pinning the dart together. So after that, I'm also going to place the facing on a bodice stand and then use the pen to pin it together before I took it to the machine to stitch it together. So I also use the facing to turn in the bodice stand at the neckline. I also fold in half inches on the facing at the neckline. And this is also what the inside look like. So I'm going to trim the corner before I turn in the facing. So guys, after I'm done turning it in, this is what it's looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to fold in the allowance on the facing like you see me doing. So after I'm done with that, the next thing to do now is to join the back pieces together. So I'm going to remove my pattern first and then start pinning it together at the waistline before I took it to the machine to stitch it together. So after I'm done stitching out the allowance on the facing, this is what it's looking like. The same thing with the other side. So after that, I'm going to notch out this end of this bodice stand. This will make it easy to fix the cape because the cape starts at the end of the button stand. And this is what the back also look like after I'm done joining at the waist. So the next thing to do now is to join the sides together. So I'm going to place the front on top of the back and make sure that the right side of the front and the back is facing each other before I start taking my measurement. So my bust is 36 divided by 2, which is 18. I mark it and measure what remain. So I'm going to divide it on both sides to hold my side allowance. The same thing at the waist and also the hem of the top. Divide your waist circumferences by 2, mark it and then measure what remain and then use it to hold the side allowance. At the hem of the top, I divide my hip by 2, mark and measure what remain and also divided it by 2 and then use it to hold the side allowance. And after I'm done marking it, I'm going to connect it together before I took it to the machine to stitch it together. So after I'm done joining the side, I'm going to trim out of the stitches allowance on the side. It's kind of too much, so I just trim half inches out of it. So this is what it's looking like right now. So the next thing to do now is to fix the sleeve. So I'm going to measure what I have on the armhole, which is 4.5 inches. Put it aside and pick my sleeve fabric. Remove the pattern from the sleeve. So after that, I'm going to mark that 4.5 inches on the sleeve cuff and then go down on the hem and mark 6 inches. So after I'm done marking it, I connect it together. So I also did the same thing to the second sleeve. So from the hem of the sleeve here, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. That is where my stitches is going to stop. So after I'm done stitching in, this is what it's looking like. So the next thing to do now is to turn in the sleeve band. So I'm going to remove the pattern and mark 6 inches at the top and 6 inches at the bottom and connect it together. So I unfold it and also mark the second side. So I'm going to take it to the machine to stitch down both the side and also the bottom. So the only space that is going to be open is the upper part. So after I'm done stitching it down, I'm going to trim out some of the sewing allowance before I turn it outside. So after I'm done turning it outside and ironing, this is what it's looking like. So the next thing I'm doing now is to fix it on the sleeve. So after I'm done joining it together, I'm going to pin the sleeve to the armhole before I took it to the machine to stitch it together. So after I'm done joining it together, this is what it's looking like.
So the next thing to do now is to measure what I have around the neckline.
So I'm going to start measuring it from the end of the button stand. And I have 42.5 inches. So I'm going to mark it on this paper here. So I'm going to divide that
42.5 into 2
and mark half of it. So after I'm done marking it, I'm going to add extra 1.5 inches to it.
So after that, I'm going to label one side CB, which is center back, and the CF for the center front. So for the length, we are using 8 inches. So for that 8 inches, M allowance and half inches to join the cape to the body is included. So after that, the next thing to do now is to fold the paper into two to get the midpoint. So after I'm done with that, I'm going to roll out a straight line on the middle and use the scissors to slash it. After that, I'm going to place another paper under it and use paper tape to tape it down. So after that, I'm going to mark 4 inches in between. And the reason why I use 4 inches to spread it out at the bottom, because we can't use the measurement that we use at the upper part, we can't use it at the bottom because of the bust. So that reason why I slash it and then I spread it out by 4 inches to give room for movement so that you can be able to move your hand. After that, I folded my fabric into two before I place my pattern on top, and I make sure that the center back is on a straight line before I start cutting it out. So after I'm not cutting it, I'm going to remove the pattern and unfold it, and this is what it's looking like. So the next thing to do now is to fold this place inside, both the center front. I'm going to fold it inside and the hem of the cape. So after I'm done folding it inside, this is what it's going to look like, and the hem of the cape, this is what it's looking like. So I'm going to remeasure what I have at the upper part to make sure that's exactly what I needed, which is 42.5 inches, before I start pinning it to the neckline. As I was saying before, the cape is going to start at the end of the button stand and also end at the second end of the button stand. And secondly, when you are pinning it, the right side of the cape is going to face toward the wrong side of the body, which is the inside. So after I'm done pinning it together, I'm going to take it to the machine to stitch it together. So after I'm done stitching it together, I flip the cape outside, and this is what it's looking like. And I also went ahead, I did the buttonholes and also tagged the button. So the distance between each button is 2.5 inches, and I have 5 buttons there. And I also went ahead, I fold in the M allowance. So guys, this is the end of today's tutorial. If you want more step-by-step sewing tutorial like this, make sure you subscribe, like, comment and share, and don't forget to also ring the notification bell so whenever I post a new video you'll be notified. See you guys in my next one. Bye.